Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to another pair of subscriber replays. Yay! Both of the games today are going to feature My Name is Puffs, and he's going to be driving the British Tier 7 tank destroyer, the Challenger, a tank that pretty much everyone loves to hate. Kicking off in this first game, he's here on the Abbey map. Now, before we get into the replay, there is one thing I would like to point out. Puffs did send me, I mean these are older replays, but Puffs did also send me a game in his T50-2, and you can see one such machine up there, which I was going to show, but I've opted not to, because it ended up appearing on Pointy Hair Jedi's channel. So, if you want to see Puffs doing rather well in that machine, then just head on over to that channel. I instead decided to go with this pair of Challenger games. Now, straight off in this one, you might have noticed that it's a little bit crowded over here, but things will thin out, have no fear. Now, I've got a little bit of an ulterior motive for showing these games. Little secret that some of you will already be aware of, but I used to enjoy playing the Challenger with the 17-pounder gun, which most people, as far as I understand, don't. But I quite liked it. I don't know. I just had fun. But since then, since I played it, Wargaming in their infinite wisdom decided to give it the buff by giving it the, what was at the time, new and improved 32-pounder, which is the gun that Puffs is using here. Now, the 32-pounder previously had basically only been used on the Churchill gun carrier, yeah, that, and I think it was the stock gun on the Tortoise, and at the time I believe it had about 212 pen, 250 alpha damage, and Wargaming decided to buff the pen up to 220, of course with regular ammunition, it gets more with its premium rounds, and the alpha damage went up to 280. And, oh, there was a time as well when it was used on the Caernarvon, I want to say. But anyway, so I'm rather curious what this tank is like these days, especially with this new gun. Now, there is a downside to using this gun. With the 17-pounder, one of the nice things about the Challenger is that you get a fully rotating turret. With the 32-pounder, you don't. You can see here, this is the full extent of Puff's gun traverse, if I just show you. It's there to both sides of the tank. Now, it's pretty wide gun traverse for a tank destroyer, but it's still not actually a fully rotating turret. First impressions, having watched Puffs play, I mean, the 280 Alpha looks nice, but he's missed or bounced an awful lot of shots, and they weren't terribly aimed. Probably just got unlucky, but well, first impressions and all that. Anyway, if you actually look at the match, here on the Abbey map, which, for anyone who's been with me a while, will probably know, it's not my favourite map in the game. Hi, Mr. Lorraine, how are you today? I think you're reloading. That's a shame, isn't it? Bye! Anyway, the Abbey map. Kind of the original, or one of the original corridor maps, because essentially the whole thing boils down into a corridor or two down the 1 and 2 lines, a corridor down the 8 line, a bit of a building in the middle, but the building kind of has a corridor down, the 5 line and a corridor down the 6-7 lines. So, it's just corridors for days. This is definitely not my favourite map, and it's not the Challenger's favourite map, if we're going to be honest. But nonetheless, Puffs has managed to rack up 1400 damage, but, well, 2/3 of his team are dead. And he's down to 9 rounds of regular armour-piercing ammo. So there's that. He hasn't taken any hit point damage so far, which is good. But there are 3 of them left. This is gonna be dicey. So, Scorpion G, can we get a shot into him? No. He just makes it into cover a bit too quickly. And actually, bear in mind, this game is taken from a while back. So, these days... Ooh, Puffs is loading the HE. What's the HE like on this gun? 370 Alpha, 47 pen. So these days, the Challenger, although I haven't checked this, can probably take the improved rotation mechanism and basically get the effect of a itty-bitty adorable little vertical stabilizer, which is nice. Speaking of HE, hello Mr. Nashorn, how are you today? Are you doing good? I hope you're doing good. There's 422 damage. What's the alpha on this? 317, that was a nice high damage roll then. And then an AP round for 341. Ooh, nom nom nom. Into that VK, and he's done. 2 shots to kill that tier 6 light tank. Nice. Next into the arena, oh, okay, Rectal SU-100. That's not a thing anyone ever really wants. That thing has a big old gun. And a big old ammo rack, apparently. Puffs, by the way, in case anyone hadn't noticed, has just become the last one left on his team. Versus 6 enemies. That's a bit dicey. Well, at least we basically know where the enemies are, or at least where some of them are. So A44. The turret on that thing is generally weaker than the hull, so you're usually better off aiming for the turret. Puffs is actually going for the weak point on top of the tank. Gets a little bit lucky to hit it there. That shot could easily have gone astray. And goodbye A44. That leaves 5 enemies left alive. 3,286 damage, by the way, but 12 rounds of ammunition remaining. So each tank is allowed to take 2. Okay, I take it back. 11 rounds of ammunition remaining, split between 4 tanks. Each tank is allowed to take 2 and a bit. Up to 6 kills, by the way. Now, the problem is, Puffs... Well, they know where he is, let's be honest. And that puts Puffs in a slightly difficult position. I think Puffs should get out of dodge at this point. The problem is, because the enemy know where Puffs is, if Puffs stays here, and if the enemies have 3 brain cells to rub together, and are capable of working in any degree as a team, the Scorpion and the IS-3A can come at Puffs together, and he won't be able to kill them both before he dies. Remember, the IS-3A has this weird reverse auto reloader, and oh, there's the Scorpion G. They definitely know where he is now. He's still here. So Puffs puts his back against the wall, and essentially gets ready to sell his life dearly. Now, he might be able to take the Scorpion on his own, but the Scorpion hasn't come in yet, which suggests to me that the Scorpion is waiting for a friend. And I don't want to harp on about it, but I don't like this play, personally. I just think you're giving up any chance of winning the game. Because if the IS-3 finds you and he's not a one-shot... Oh, that was a bad shot aimed at the pillar. And he wasn't a one-shot, the IS-3A will kill you with that reverse auto-reloader thingy. And there we go. Puffs is dead. So, generally a very well played game there. But, I mean, Puffs got unlucky with the team, of course. But, well, like I say, the play at the end, it was always going to be difficult. But I think Puffs really needed to be elsewhere. And even as soon as the Scorpion turned up, right, go out, kill the Scorpion. You might take a hit for your troubles, but the Scorpion needs to die. Now, we can, however, play a game of, well, okay, so the IS-3A had an extra 265 hit points. So the IS-3A had about 1,000 health. So realistically, it was going to take 4 shots to kill the IS-3A. So Puffs had 11 rounds of ammunition. 4 shots for the IS-3A. 2 for the Scorpion G, assuming one of them was high explosive. So that takes us up to 7 rounds fired. Yeah, if Puff's accuracy had been on point, he would have had enough ammunition, for that match. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to harp on about it. That was the first match. Let's have a look at the post-game stats. So, that heartbreak was enough for Ace Tanker, Demolitionist, Fire for Effect, Master Gunner, Bruiser, High Caliber, and a Top Gun there for Puffs. Unfortunately, he couldn't quite take that game down. But, 4,050 damage, 6 kills, 863 base experience. Shout out should go to the IS-3A on the enemy team. I mean, he's in an incredibly powerful machine. Regardless, top tier. but still, you know, 4 kills, 3,277 damage, and over 1,000 base experience from him. It is still a good game from him, no matter how you look at it. And that's really the difference. Puffs actually did more damage than that IS-3A, but that IS-3A, who amazingly has the name Battle of Bacon, by the way, still put in a lot of damage, and the rest of his team were just that little bit better and that little bit more consistent than the rest of Puff's team. It is what it is at the end of the day. 21 shots fired, 17 hits, 15 pens for that damage count. The gun really didn't work at the beginning, but kind of wound up toward the end and ended up being a lot more impressive towards the end there. 1,630 of that damage was from relatively long range, not what you normally expect from a tank destroyer, but Puffs was forced into some closer range engagements as the game progressed. 4 hits received, 3 penetrated, 1 didn't, which is unusual. Usually every shot goes through the Challenger because it has no armour. 240 damage blocked by his armour there, 10 enemy vehicles damaged, 2 destroyed, 450 assistance damage, 1.4 kilometers travelled, 21 base defence points, and with a standard account, because Puffs did fire a couple of APCR rounds there, that ended up being a loss of 7,000 credits, but with a premium account it would have been a 29,500 credit profit, couple of bonds in there, and of course some experience. So a very good result there from Puffs, even if he wasn't quite able to get the win. Now, I know I critiqued it. I think it still would have been very difficult for Puffs to win that game, especially on a map like Abbey, where you don't necessarily have the room to manoeuvre all the time. But nonetheless, I think the way Puffs did it, he guaranteed, well, he stood a good chance of eking out a little more damage, but I don't think he had a realistic chance of winning it, hence I critique it. But Puffs is a very competent player, either way. Anyway, we've got another game lined up for you. Second game here then, and Puffs is top tier this time, 357 matchmaking, and we are here on Tundra? Yes, Tundra. And once again, Puffs is in the Challenger, and once again with the nice big 32-pounder. And we'll see what Puffs can do. Ooh, little AMX ELC with the tiny little stock gun. Bless his little heart. Aww. One thing you can see here is the Challenger's mobility and its size. Like, this is a big tank. It's also a soft tank. But it's fast, but not particularly agile. It's a bit like the Hellcat in some ways. It's soft, not particularly small, fast in a straight line, but isn't exactly a knife fighter, which is kind of what you might expect. I mean, it is a tank destroyer at the end of the day, but you'd expect it to be fast because, well, it's based on the chassis of the Cromwell. And, ooh, there was a nice shot. One good thing about using this 32-pounder gun over the 17-pounder gun that you used to have to use, and that some people may still opt to use, is that alpha damage. It really is the selling point. If you'd done that with the 17-pounder gun, although it's got a better reload, you probably still wouldn't have had the time to load a second shell and pump a second shell into one of them. So you'd have only been hitting them for 150 damage, whereas here you're hitting them for... Really? You're going to poke again? Oh well. You're hitting them for 280 alpha, and actually Puffs rolls ever so slightly high for 300. And executes that leopard, who appeared to have a death wish? I don't know. Hello, Mr. KV1. Ooh, turret? No, unfortunately. Not rewarded with a penetration there. KV1 again. Ooh. So, KV1 fires a HE round into Puffs. Puffs hits him with a 265 damage AP round. And judging by the amount of damage that Puffs took, what gun's that guy using? Difficult to see, but it looked like it might have been the stock turret. I ask because, well, the armour on this tank is terrible. And so there's always the risk with larger caliber HE shells, and I'm kind of thinking the 122mm howitzer that tank can take. There's the risk that they can just flat out penetrate the Challenger and do max damage, which would suck. Now that one didn't, so I'm wondering if it was HE with the 85mm gun, but why? especially if you've come over to the hill, this tends not to be where the... Really? That Crusader stuck around? That was silly. This tends not to be where the tanks with lots of armour come to fight. Oh well. So Puffs managed to hit that Crusader for 237, which is actually a really low roll. And he got 229 on the Leopard. In fact, apart from the 300 on the T-43, all those damage rolls have been low, although bear in mind on the Leopard it was a kill shot, so it couldn't be a high shot. High damaging shot, and to be fair, 198 on the KV-1, that was also a killing shot. But you can see here, by the way, that Puffs is able to use this tank very much not like a traditional tank destroyer in this particular instance. Oh, speaking of a Hellcat, there's one. He's much closer to the action than one would normally expect for a traditional tank destroyer at T-34-85. Yeah, he took a hit for that one, it was going to be difficult to avoid. But he's really able to bully these tier 5, 6 and 7 tanks with this 280 alpha damage, more than people generally expect. T-43 is just going for it because he's kind of running out of options. Fair enough, I can respect that. And is the Crusader still up here somewhere? Maybe. Oh, he's crashed, so that deals with him, and there goes the T-43. And suddenly the friendly team have managed to pull it back a little bit so that the scoreline reads 7-8. Ooh, Hellcat, Hellcat, Hellcat. 269. And down here at tier 7, 280 alpha damage really does feel quite meaty and satisfying. Nice hit there. Can you finish the SU off? No, that was a bounce, which is a shame. Switching attention now to the KV-3. Puffs gets spotted, but maybe that shot went in, maybe it didn't. We just don't know. Maybe if the KV-3 gets respotted, we'll be able to have a vaguely intelligent stab at it. The friendly team's down to 8-11, by the way. I mean, Puffs has certainly been doing the damage and picking up the kills and whatnot, but it appears the rest of his team maybe not so much. So if people can get spots on this SU and the KV-3 here, then Puffs may well be able to do something about them. Oh, Stridsvang takes a hit for 63, probably artillery I'm guessing, especially as the guy hasn't died yet. Yup, KV-3 is definitely on lower health. My betting would be on Puff's shot having connected there. But the KV-3 takes out the WZ-131GFT, and there goes the Stridsvang, and suddenly it's just Puffs and a poodle. There's a sentence you don't hear very often. Puffs and a poodle against the world. 282 and takes the guy's track off, and Puffs does not get spotted because the KV-3 has rubbish view range. It is blind as a bat. SU there, and he is done. Worth taking the shot there and not bothering to faff around with camo and all that jazz. That guy just needed to die, and he did. Puffs, by the way, has loaded the APCR here for the last couple of shots. In this sort of situation, you really do want to make those shots count, and just a reminder, that's 252 pen as opposed to 220. So yes, you get a penetration increase, but it's not an astronomical penetration increase. It's of the order of, what, 15%? Something like that. So, Puffs is just relocating over here to the other side of the hill. Wait for his binos. Maybe he can get some spots over here and execute some of these artillery, a bit like that. And there goes the M44. Puffs, by the way, is up to 5 kills. And back to AP. That was a bit of a waste of an APCR round, let's be honest, but a kill's a kill at the end of the day. But in this sort of matchmaking, don't really need the APCR. It's the sort of situation where if the AP isn't going to pen any of these tanks, the APCR probably isn't going to either. Right, now Puffs is just dropping down. The Poodle is very bravely looking for that KV-3, who, to be fair, is on very low hit points and would be a one-shot for, well, basically anyone. Well, definitely for the Poodle, but Puffs doesn't have a shot. And it looks like Puffs is going to try and do something about the artillery. Now, we haven't seen that T1 Heavy at all. And the Grilla actually takes out the Poodle, so that leaves Puffs 1 versus 4. Now, this makes me wonder if the T1 Heavy is actually AFK. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. Now, I must confess, as tempting as it would be to farm damage on this T1 Heavy, the problem is he is spotting you even if the player isn't there. And again, it's difficult because it's not actually that difficult to kill this guy. But Puffs is starting to run a little bit low on ammo, though he should have plenty of ammunition to finish this game. And all the while that he's killing that T1, he is being spotted. Then again, the only way to guarantee that T1 can't spot you is to take him out, and as it is, Puffs was able to kill him in 3 shots because he's a lower tier tank, only tier 5. So, I guess killing him wasn't a terrible idea, even though the player wasn't active. But in many situations that are close like this, you're probably best off, as tempting as it is to farm the free damage on the AFK player, you're probably better off to ignore the AFK player and just go and kill the people who are actually present. Now it's worth pointing out, if we have a look at the score line, or rather the number of kills each tank has got, there's an enemy Grilla who's sitting on 5 kills. Now there's always, of course, the argument that there's a degree of luck involved there, but one has to question, well, how good is that guy at playing artillery? Is that someone we want to watch out for? Is that someone we want to be afraid of? Puffs is still looking for this KV3. It would be really nice to get that guy dead. With the KV3 dead, although of course nothing is guaranteed, that would make Puff's life considerably easier when it comes to dealing with the enemy artillery. Now Puffs, he should have enough health, to survive one shot from the KV3, assuming he's firing AP or APCR. Of course a high damage roll would still kill Puffs, but 390 average damage, assuming the KV3 is using the big gun there. However, there is of course the option that the guy knows that the Challenger is incredibly lightly armoured and might have loaded high explosive. And I can't remember the penetration of the HE from that 122mm gun off the top of my head, but high caliber, high explosive can be a serious problem for tanks along this whole British tank destroyer line. Ooh, there's a Grilla. Ah, not able to get a shot, that's a shame. Now of course, ooh, is he going to come out? Of course, the other thing that having APCR loaded gives you, as well as better penetration, is better shell velocity. Hello KV3, how are you? You're dead. And better shell velocity makes it much easier to lead your shots at range. Now Puffs loads high explosive here, which seems perfectly sensible. The Grilla has, what, 250, 280 health? We just saw one, I can't remember. But enough that an AP shell or APCR shell may not do the job. High explosive ammo from this machine has 370 alpha and 47 pen, so that should do it nicely. 2 enemy tanks remaining. We know where one of them was last spotted, as we spotted the Grilla down at the sort of K5 location. And, oh, okay, and, ooh, actually, those Grilla have 240 hit points, my apologies. So in that instance, you could actually make a convincing argument to not load high explosive, because if you hit the gun or the tracks on the Grilla, there's every chance that you won't actually penetrate, and you'll just splash on the guy and end up not killing them, and 280 alpha should be a reliable kill on the guy. So, swings and roundabouts. Now, we still know where that enemy Grilla was last spotted, and this is where it can get a little bit dicey. You know, I mentioned high caliber, high explosive or large caliber high explosive shells can be a problem for these lightly armoured British turreted tank destroyers. Having a bit of a blind shot there with a HE round. Well, HE rounds don't tend to come much larger than those that artillery are slinging around. So despite all the nerfs that artillery has received over time, this is dicey, but as it is, there's the kill, there's the game. Very well played to Puffs there. Finally managing to carry his team over the line and secure a victory. So, let's have a look at the post-game stats for this one. Well, thankfully there we progressed from a defeat in the previous game to a victory here. A really nice win for Puffs there, as he was very much up against it. Although of course he was top tier, and you do need a little bit of luck here or there. Of course the T1 heavy being AFK helped, but don't want to cheapen that. That was a very nice job indeed from Puffs. Ace Tanker, of course, Duelist, Fire for Effect, and Bruiser to go with that high caliber for a shed ton of damage. Top Gun for at least 6 kills, more on that in a moment. Dimitriu's Medal, you don't see that one very often. That's for killing 3 enemy artillery in one battle. And, of course, the Radley Walters Medal for picking up 9 kills in the end. 1 off a pause medal. Very, very impressive indeed. 4,160 damage done, 9 kills, 1,545 base experience. From my experience playing the Challenger, although bear in mind that was before they gave it the option to have a bigger gun, the ace requirement for the Challenger is like around 1,000 XP. It's really not very much. Even with the big gun, I'm not expecting people to... Well, I got the impression most people still don't love this tank. Worth pointing out, by the way, that on Puff's team, he did 4,160 damage, and no one else on his team managed even 1,000 damage. Although, I would like to say, shoutouts should go to this Panzer IV here. Remembering, of course, this is a tier 7 match, and he is driving a tier 5 machine. 908 damage from him is a respectable result, and by the look of it, given that he only fired 7 shots to get that damage count, my money would be on him using the 105mm howitzer there. And this Slitzvang here, shout out to him for coming second on his team, again in a tier 5 machine, 410 damage and 481 assistance damage. You know, when you're in your bottom tier tanks and you're still able to have a respectable impact on the game, that's good to see. So, Deduta there and Lorix 1, congratulations to you, well played. On the enemy team, we can see that shout-out should go to the enemy KV-3, 2,587 damage done by him, just wasn't enough. Put him at the top of his team, but was not enough to carry his game over the finishing line. And that 5-kill Grilla we were pondering over, well, it's 5 kills, but it's only actually 785 damage. So it seems there were quite a lot of times there where he was just polishing off an enemy tank. Still valuable, of course, but not the sort of scary artillery player we might have been fearing. And actually the other Grilla on his team did more damage. Did a similar amount of damage despite getting fewer kills, but still got more experience somehow. 789 damage from stunning. 21 shots fired from Puffs there, 19 hits, nice bit of accuracy, marksmanship going on, 18 pens for that damage count. Only 820 from longer range, so quite a lot of that was from relatively close range. 4 hits received, 3 penetrated, 0 bounces because this tank has terrible armour. 2 splash from artillery, 6 enemy vehicles spotted, 12 damaged, 9 destroyed. Puffs shot every tank on the enemy team with the exception of 3. It's quite a lot. 198 assistance damage, 3.57 kilometers travelled. Unfortunately, he did end up firing literally a few rounds of APCR, so with a standard account he actually made a loss in that game of 15,000 credits. With a premium account, that would have been a 23,000 credit win. I'd also like to point out Puffs uses Pudding and Tea, hello Puddin', on his Challenger there. Can you tell someone's been watching Harlequin lately? So that's another 10,000 credits down, so that's where a lot of that comes from. Really nice amount of experience there, so shout out to Puffs. Very well done for this effort and this result, frankly. Really good game, pair of games from him. So there we go, a couple of games there showing the Challenger. A tank you don't really see that often, certainly not doing well in my experience, and thought it was nice just to see. Hope you guys enjoyed those games. If you did, feel free to catch some of my other videos, subscribe to the channel, there should be various icons popping up for you to watch videos, playlists, subscribe to me, etc. And if you want to send me your own replay, upload the replay to whatreplays.com, send the URL to me on Discord, or you can whack it in a YouTube comment and I should get it. And I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.